Welcome to the Alaska TV Weather Show. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service on this Sunday, July 11th, 2021. As always, if you'd like additional weather information, you can go online at weather.gov/Alaska. All types of information to look at there. And as far as what we got coming up here in the week ahead, well, we have an area of low pressure that's just been sitting over the Gulf, and that's going to sit and spin and slowly weaken. And the rains that have been impacting, especially areas of Kodiak Island along the Kenai and south central coast to Yakutat, will be slow to diminish and spread a little further east up into areas of the southeast panhandle. But you in the southwest interior are going to see warmer and drier conditions, especially this first half of the week, where temperatures will get back into the 70s. You've had an extended period of cloudy, wet weather here for like, I don't know, at least a month. And then another cold front's going to move in along the Arctic coast in the Brooks Range, and that's going to bring some showers with it and turn areas along the North Slope and Arctic coast cooler Tuesday and in through the midweek. But they're further ahead, July 16th to the 21st, roughly in that time frame. Warmer and drier weather could very well set up over south central areas of the state, centered on the Cook Inlet area, which would include Anchorage for a change. So that could be some of the warmer weather we've seen so far this summer. Well, let's look at fire danger. There's the potential for significant fires across east central areas. It's a moderate risk right now, and it's going to stay about the same here Monday into Tuesday. The thing I want to point out is with that cold front that's going to be dropping southeastward from the north on Tuesday, winds, southwest to west winds ahead of that are going to be gusty, combined with dry conditions, and even the potential for a few isolated thunderstorms and lightning strikes will increase the fire danger in east central areas along and north of the Alaska Range to the Alcan border Tuesday afternoon and evening. So stay tuned. There may be some additional things to consider, perhaps even red flag warnings as a result of that. But we can look at the satellite imagery and see the main weather maker there sitting over the Gulf. The center of circulation is southeast of Kodiak Island at this time, with a nice plume of moisture riding right up from south to north into areas of the south central coast. We've seen rainfall amounts Yakutat westward through Cordova, Whittier, and over toward Kodiak on the order of 1 to 2 inches over the past 2 days. And in fact, Portage Glacier has picked up nearly 3 inches of rain, so this has been a very wet system, and it will continue to sit there in the Gulf, and some of that moisture is going to spread a little farther eastward, so portions of the southeast panhandle will definitely pick up on some weather, especially the northern half, Sitka northward. And as we look to the north, we had one front come through overnight early this morning. It's kind of washing out now along the Yukon River, not much to it. But another one will be dropping in from the northwest as we head through the day on Tuesday, and it's ahead of that feature. We do anticipate that the winds will be picking up in the east central areas and increasing the fire danger. Back out toward the west, extensive marine layer across much of the Bering Sea with areas of fog and some drizzle or sprinkles. There will be another low pressure system passing south of the central and eastern Aleutians as we head through Monday and Tuesday. As it crosses through the North Pacific. But here is that low this afternoon, located now just east of Kodiak Island, and the plume of moisture just feeding from south to north right up into the coastal areas there of south central areas. And you'll see up along the north near the Yukon River there, Yukon Flats, there's that frontal boundary that's kind of stalled out and just weakened. Meanwhile, areas of fog along the Arctic coast back to the Bering Strait, with weak high pressure in place, though, along the west and out over the eastern Bering. That feature will continue to stay there. It's a reflection of what's going on higher up in the atmosphere. There's a pretty strong mid-level ridge of high pressure over the northern and eastern Bering, far eastern Russia, into the west side of the state. And that's going to allow for that warming and some clearing to occur, especially the lower half of the Yukon and Kuskokwim River basins for a change. You're going to get a chance to dry out. Meanwhile, going into Monday, that low pressure just continues to slowly weaken and fill there in the Gulf. Weak high pressure ridge over the southeast just helps to trap and squash that marine moisture and the moisture that is being forced inland from the circulation around that low over the Gulf. But otherwise, notice along the Yukon River, some clearer skies, sunshine that allowed temperatures to get back up in the 70s. and even a few areas could be back up around 80 again Monday afternoon, and some other places Tuesday in the southwest could see some of their first 80-degree readings perhaps of the summer. So another cold front will be dropping in from the north on Tuesday. Enough instability with it. There could be a few isolated thunderstorms and lightning strikes, plus winds are going to be picking up from the southwest and south ahead of it. So there could be an increased fire danger along and north of the Alaska range, especially through east central areas to the Alcan border. And then we watch the low just continues to sit and spin and slowly weaken across the Gulf, with the second low just south of the eastern Aleutians, though not as strong as the previous one. So low temperatures Monday morning will generally be in the lower 50s across the inner waterways of the southeast, mid 40s to around 50 degrees south central areas. And then on Monday afternoon, where it's still cloudy, upper 50s to maybe 61 at Ketchikan, and cool back through Cordova, Valdez, Whittier, only upper 50s to around 60 at best. You get, though, further west of the Alaska range, upper Kuskokwim Basin could see highs 75 there at McGrath. And then as we go into Tuesday morning lows, lower 50s again across the southeast, generally upper 40s to lower 50s south central areas, and temperatures again will be warmest just west of the Alaska range up through the Kuskokwim River Basin, with highs in the 70s, even an isolated 80-degree reading not out of the question, while coastal areas, Yakutat westward toward Prince William Sound, only upper 50s. So temperatures Monday morning will be in the 30s along the Arctic coast, 40s Seward Peninsula, and some lower 50s toward Fairbanks and Fort Yukon. Should be back up in the 70s along the Yukon River, maybe flirting with 80 at Fort Yukon and Eagle Village. It'll be the warmest day along the North Slope ahead of that approaching cold front, with temperatures in the 60s, even some 70s not out of the question. And also back toward the Seward Peninsula, 50s and some 60s. And then going into Tuesday morning, low temperatures generally in the 30s along the Arctic coast, lower to mid 50s the Yukon River Valley, and in the 40s the Seward Peninsula. Highs on Tuesday afternoon will get back up above 80 there from around Fairbanks through the Yukon Flats and along the Alcan border. And temperatures Monday morning will generally be upper 40s to around 50 across the southwest interior, and then lows generally in mid 40s along the Aleutian chain. Monday afternoon, Bethel and Antioch could be back up around 70 or so, with even warmer values as you go up the upper Kuskokwim Basin. And then lows Tuesday morning generally in the lower 50s, the interior of the southwest, and then mid to upper 40s along the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutian chain. Temperatures Tuesday afternoon. Tuesday should be a beautiful day across the southwest, especially the interior, with highs many areas in the 60s, even some isolated 80-degree readings, but of course cooler readings along coastal areas, 50s and 60s. So here is the temperature outlook for July 17th through the 21st, and it does favor above normal temperatures over south central areas centered on Cook Inlet, including the Anchorage area and the Kenai. If you look off to the right of your screen, the dark brick red of much above normal temperatures will continue northern Rockies, northern central plains of the lower 48. That's helping some of this ridging to redevelop over Alaska and warm things up. And that will also mean drier conditions, especially throughout the southeastern portions and south central areas of the state, with the potential for above normal precipitation returning there along the northwest coast and portions of the Seward Peninsula. So enjoy the drying that you have there, especially in the Seward Peninsula this week, because it won't last forever as systems begin to march along again. But this certainly could signal some warmer temperatures returning to south central areas that have had the cloudier and wet weather now this past weekend and this coming week. Those of you in the southwest, definitely get out and enjoy the weather this week.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
And here's your flying weather if you are planning a flight early this week, Monday into Tuesday. Well, you have main feature, a low-pressure system sitting out over the Gulf of Alaska, primarily east of Kodiak Island. That'll keep IFR conditions going there along portions of the south-central coast into the southeast. Back toward the north, there is a cold front, another cold front that'll be approaching the Arctic coast and then stalling out along the Brooks Range late Monday night into early Tuesday morning. low pressure system, a weaker one, will be passing primarily south of the central and eastern Aleutians as we head through Monday into Tuesday, with broad IFR conditions off of the west coast and across much of the Bering Sea. But a lot of VFR conditions across the interior for Monday, later morning and afternoon. We'll see, though, IFR conditions creep up, especially into the northern half of the southeast panhandle, including Lynn Canal, all the way on up there toward Chilkoot and White, as well as down towards Sitka. And then as we go into Tuesday morning, IFR conditions along the north slope and Arctic coast, along and behind that stalled frontal boundary there up along the Brooks Range. Otherwise, broad areas of IFR there in the northern Gulf of Alaska and along the west coast, extending out into the Bering and the Aleutians. Tuesday afternoon should once again see a fair amount of VFR conditions across the interior, with still areas of IFR continuing out there over the northern Gulf and across much of the Bering, including most of the Aleutian chain. But otherwise, passes are generally a lot of VFR conditions here. Anaktuvik, as well as again, we'll see VFR conditions on Monday, and as we head south and west, Lake Clark and Merrill will enjoy VFR conditions throughout the day. And as we round up through the Alaska Range, look for VFR conditions, Rainy Pass as well as Windy Pass. And heading farther east, Isabel and Ventasta will see VFR conditions. And a little further south and west, Tanita, VFR. And as we drop down toward Portage, depends on which end you're at there. The east entrance will be MVFR throughout the day and out over Prince William Sound, but as you get on toward the west entrance, flying west and north of there, VFR conditions will rule. And in the southeast, look for conditions to begin to deteriorate as that marine layer moves onshore. We'll look for MVFR becoming IFR at Chilkoot and White, likely holding Monday night into early Tuesday. Freezing levels across the state. Lowest freezing levels are south central areas associated with that low pressure system east of Kodiak Island, generally below 8,000 feet there. The western Gulf, a little pocket of below 6,000 feet as you get further out there into the central Gulf. Warmest, highest freezing levels beneath a ridge of high pressure, warm temperatures over eastern Russia and the western parts of the state. Going to be around 12,000 to 14,000 feet up through the Bering Strait there. And then icing potential will be mainly confined to along the Gulf Coast from eastern areas of Kodiak Island and the Kenai all the way eastward through Yakutat on over towards Sitka. Generally above 9,000 feet, between 9,000 feet and a flight level of 21,000 feet, which is obviously above most general aviation concerns. But otherwise, here's the circulation. We have that low pressure system in the upper atmosphere showing the circulation there east of Kodiak Island in the Gulf. Onshore flow 85 knots from the southwest over the southeast panhandle. Northeast flow back toward the east side of the Kenai, mouth of Cook Inlet and Kodiak Island. Also northeasterly flow upwards to 60 knots there over the Yukon River Delta region. And then as we drop down to 9,000 feet, you can see that circulation, the low still out there over the Gulf of Alaska with onshore flow from the southwest upwards to 35 knots over much of the southeast panhandle. Backside upwards to 40 knots from the northeast around the mouth of Cook Inlet and Shelikof Strait. And then going down to 3,000 feet, not too much turbulence, but potential does exist, especially east side of the Kenai on over toward around Cordova, with winds from the southeast upwards to 40 knots as that low pressure circulation continues to sit there in the Gulf of Alaska, and that other little low passing south of the central Aleutians with 50-knot winds from the southwest out over the North Pacific. And here's turbulence with that cold front approaching from the north from the Arctic Ocean. Along the northwest and Arctic coast, there could be some turbulence in the northwest, surface to 5,000 feet. And as we head into south central and southeast areas on Monday, there could be some turbulence between the surface and 6,000 feet. So that wraps it up for your aviation weather. And as always, if you're heading out, check the latest conditions and forecast, and certainly have a safe flight.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder, and joining us once again is Eric Stevens, our good friend from GINA, the Geographic Information Network of Alaska, based up at UAF. And thanks for joining us, Eric. Really appreciate it.
Oh, happy to be here, Dave.
We love to hear about all the fascinating developments, new and old, and how we're using the tools here, especially around Alaska. And I've got to think that, you know, satellite meteorology right now is a fascinating time to be involved in. If we go back to the first satellite, Tyros, back in 1960, I think is when we got some of those first pictures. Weather and meteorology probably changed that day for a whole lot of people, and it's still changing today, right?
Oh, you know it. Satellite imagery is so important, and it's getting better all the time. Of course, never perfect, but especially for us in Alaska, where there are other data sets like radars and weather balloons are so thinly spread, the satellite is the great equalizer because the satellite sees everything.
Right.
Yeah. We've got one particular issue in volcanic ash detection.
That's a big deal here. Yeah.
You know it. If you fly an airplane into volcanic ash, your jet engine might just fail. And an airplane without engines is in a world of hurt.
Sure.
So if there's a volcano that goes off, satellite imagery is the way to track that plume of ash and to tell pilots this is where you need to not be to avoid this ash plume. And there's a phrase out there, what's the difference? What's the difference?
Okay.
Well, it turns out, what we're going to discuss today, that the difference is everything. There's a technique called channel differencing.
Okay.
That if you take one piece of the spectrum of what the satellite detects and a slightly different wavelength of that spectrum, even though those two images might look similar, magical things happen when you subtract one from the other, and they reveal information that was already there, but it was hard to find until you did that subtraction.
That sounds like Nicolas Cage in National Treasure when he's got those fancy glasses and he's flipping one up and back and forth. I mean, is this what we're talking about?
Let's go more highbrow and talk Michelangelo.
Oh,
so apparently Michelangelo made some amazing sculpture, and someone said, Michael, that's amazing. How did you do it? And Michelangelo's reply allegedly was, well, you know, in that rock, the statue was already in there.
Right.
I just scraped away the unnecessary bits. In satellite meteorology, sometimes there are meteorological features that are in the data, but you can't see it until you combine or difference some of the channels.
Okay.
And we've got a case, good old Pavlov volcano goes off now and then.
Sure.
And you can observe directly a picture of the volcano. You know, just take it with your iPhone. You can see a volcano going
erupting.
off. Right. But if you want to get the broad view, we need satellite to do that. Now, there are a couple of wavelengths that we can look at. So what's a wavelength? That's the amount of space between a peak and a valley and another peak in a certain part of the electromagnetic spectrum. We're going to look at 12 micron wavelength and 10.8 micron wavelength.
What is a micron?
So what's a micron? Yeah, we're getting into the geek department now. A micron is a unit of length, and it is quite tiny. We're looking at what's called long wave wavelengths.
Okay.
But it takes 25,000 of these microns to make an inch. A human blood cell is about 5 microns across. So when we're talking about 12 micron imagery as allegedly long wave, well, that's relative.
Pretty short for light.
Yeah, it's other part of the, it's just an expression for the spectrum there.
Okay.
So we can look at a 12 micron image, say a satellite image. At 12 microns, we're seeing a heat signature here, really, and the way this color enhancement works is the yellow and the red stuff is high cold clouds down here over the Gulf of Alaska into South Central. And if you were asked, where do you find the volcanic ash plume in this image?
Hey, where do you find the volcanic plume in this image?
It's hard to do. I'm not sure I could find it. If you were to look at this image and just say, show me what jumps out at you here, I'd say, well, nothing really. Well, let's look. So 12 micron doesn't help us. Let's look at 10.8 microns.
All right.
All right, look at that. It's practically the same image. So where's this volcanic ash? Can't find it at 12 microns, can't really see it at 10.8, but when we subtract one channel from the other, magically the plume appears. The color enhancement here highlights the ash in blue.
Wow.
The information was already there, but we couldn't find it until we subtracted one channel from another.
Very interesting.
It's almost magical. Similarly, let's say you're looking for fog up on the North Slope. It's kind of a foggy neighborhood.
Sure.
In 11 micron and 3.9 micron, we've got a 3.9 micron image here. It's a big fuzzy blur over Barrow. We can't see where the fog is. But the information is lurking in there waiting for us to reveal it. All we have to do is find that difference between the 11 micron and the 3.9, and then this image becomes this image, and the fog bank jumps right out, and you can see it up there at Barrow. Now you got to choose the right tool for the job.
Sure.
Like they say, you open your toolbox, all kinds of stuff in there. What do we need for this particular task? If you want to find volcanic ash, we look at 12 and 10.8 micron, find that difference. If you want to find fog, we'll look at 11 and 3.9 micron, find that difference. It's great, different tools for different jobs. Of course, there's always caveats and gotchas, but this fog procedure, it only works at night, because when the sun comes up, it gets in the way. So every product has its strengths and limitations, and in meteorology, the challenge is using the right tool for the right job, and these are some of those tools.
And discovery is still happening, even with meteorology. The weather's been around for a long time, but the tools that are being developed to understand the meteorology is fascinating and still very new science.
It's such a young science. We've come so far. And I'm getting old enough now that I can literally say that, you know, when I was a boy, we didn't have this kind of thing. And there's new things happening all the time. New satellites will be launched in coming years that will have better instruments than ever before. It's an exciting time, and this is so helpful for Alaska because satellites help fill in the gaps between other ways of observing the weather. Satellites, the great equalizer for Alaska.
Yeah, and help so many people stay safe in so many ways every day up here in the last frontier.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, protecting lives and property.
Well, thank you so much for joining us again, Eric. We love to hear about this fascinating information, and boy, it just makes me want to go watch satellite pictures all day. So hopefully we're inspiring more people to do the same thing, and just be curious. It's a wonderful thing. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts, and we'll see you next time. And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Well, it is time now for the marine weather segment of the show. And we'll start off with the sea ice edge today, and we continue to see a lot of open water now across the lower half of the Chukchi Sea. And areas along the Arctic coast will continue to see the ice breaking up and shifting around, but nevertheless, this process is underway as we head through the summer season and will continue. Melting will continue. It should accelerate. Any remnant ice along the northwest coast should go a little faster with some briefly warmer temperatures here to start out the week. But I have to say we are having some technical issues. I can't get those fixed here on a weekend. So it's showing Sunday's marine forecast. So for Monday, we're going to see a similar trend, maybe not quite as strong. There could be near gale force winds west of Yakutat on Monday with swells up around 10, 12 feet. Inner waterways will continue to see that south-southeast flow at 10 to 15 knots, waves 2 to 3 feet. Now on Tuesday, for some reason, the data updated properly here for Tuesday's map. Southerly flow, generally 15 to 20 knots, the inner waterways, waves 2 to 4 feet. And that low in the Gulf of Alaska will gradually begin to weaken over the next couple of days, so winds won't be as strong. You're getting south winds turning more toward the southeast up along the north end of the Gulf, and swells generally in the 5 to 6 foot range. Now, this past today, Sunday, we've had gale force winds there along the northern Gulf. And as a result, we've had winds 35, 40 knots. They'll be coming down tomorrow, not as strong. Still, though, that area from between Seward and Yakutat could still see near 35 knot easterly winds on Monday with swells of 10 to 13 feet. And coming down along the length of the Cook Inlet, there could be some winds perhaps upwards of 25 to 30 knots and swells of 8 to 10 feet there at the mouth of Cook Inlet. On Tuesday, notice winds come down across the region, still in that counterclockwise circulation, northeasterly Prince William Sound a couple of feet, 20 knots northeasterly winds off the Kenai with 5-footers, and then a little more mixed across the Cook Inlet with perhaps winds there variable upwards 10 to 15 knots and waves 2 to 3 feet. Taking a look at the southwest peninsula, including Kodiak Island. Now Sunday there were near gale force winds around Kodiak Island. Those will be coming down, still generally out of the north to northeast as that low sits east of Kodiak Island and just kind of slowly weakens there. And they'll turn more northwesterly down as we go along the length of the Alaska Peninsula. Swells 6-7 feet on the Pacific side, maybe 2 to 4 feet on the Bering side. Tuesday, even more so, winds come down across the region, 10 to 15 knots. and swells on the Pacific side 4 or 5 feet, 2 maybe 3 feet on the Bering side. And across the Aleutians, variable winds on Sunday. Not a whole lot of wind action. Ahead of low pressure that's going to pass south of the central and eastern Aleutians Monday into Tuesday. Look for winds to try to turn a little more to the northeast, but nothing especially strong. And swells on the Pacific side, maybe 4 or 5 feet, and 2 to 4 feet on the Bering side. Tuesday, you can see some of that northeasterly flow ahead of the low that's passing south through the North Pacific and the eastern Aleutians. Swells could be on the order of 5 to 7 feet on the Pacific side, 3 to 4 feet on the Bering side. And then along the west coast, Sunday winds were somewhat variable onshore-ish there on the west coast, northwesterly. They will continue to kind of come down and weaken a bit because we have a weak area of high pressure, not only at the surface, but aloft. So winds will generally be out of the 10 to 15 knot range, some onshore flow, depending on where the sea breeze is set up in the afternoon, and waves will be pretty benign, 2 to 3 feet. Arctic coast, well, winds out of the west, 20 knots on Sunday. They will be coming down. I should say they'll be picking up on Monday ahead of an approaching cold front from the northwest. In fact, that northwest coast, Cape Lisburn on up toward Wainwright and Utqiagvik, could see winds maybe picking up as much as 25 to near 30 knots from the southwest ahead of that front. So there will be some higher waves there on Monday. Tuesday, behind the front, we'll see winds going around to the west. Along the Arctic coast around 15 to 20 knots with still some areas of ice, but then the Chukchi winds will generally turn more toward the north at around 10 to 15 knots and waves 3 to 4 feet. Quick check of the surface map. That's the low sitting out over the Gulf of Alaska. And that's all I have for time tonight. Thank you for joining us, and I'll be back tomorrow.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.